Hello and welcome to Talking Pictures, a podcast where we discuss the movies and TV shows we've been watching. I'm your host David, and joined with me as always my co-host Brian. Brian, how are you?
David, what's the crack? How are you?
I'm good. We're here today once again to talk about movies. We're here to talk about a movie we saw last week by one of arguably the best directors of our time, Steven Spielberg. His new movie, The Fabelmans.
I think arguably he is the best director of all time because his movie and his movie prior are both within the realm of genres that he has not yet really tackled before, and he blew it out of the rocket ship.
Yeah, he's really someone that kind of has, over the course of his career, from, you know, Jaws to The Fabelmans, name a genre and he's done something in there, you know, and to great effect. He's done it all really well. Like, I'm looking at his filmography here, and you name a genre and there's a movie here for it, and he's done it well. It's a success.
And he's done multiple variations of war genres as well, both political and on the ground.
Exactly, yeah. He's tackled kind of the same time period in different ways. He's looked at like Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan, you know, the World War II era. And then he's gone on, even with Indiana Jones all takes place in that time as well. So you have the realistic, down to earth, gritty Saving Private Ryan, the dramatic Schindler's List, and then
horror,
the
Jaws.
horror of Jaws, Indiana Jones, you know, the big, you know, family adventure movie with Nazis. And then, yeah, exactly, like you have Jaws, horror, you've got Jurassic Park, Catch Me If You Can. He's gone sci-fi with Ready Player One, Minority Report, Close Encounters, and then back to the dramas with like The Post and Bridge of Spies, Lincoln. His filmography is varied.
Yeah. When was the last bad movie he did?
I don't know if have.
I'm talking bad. I'm not talking about movie. It was just alright. So many people can say that about movies, but to be honest, on a scale of liking it to not liking it, the majorities are liking it.
Mm-hmm. There's not really going to be a movie that's going to be, you know, oh, that's a bad Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah,
they're all good,
in their own
great
way.
Yeah,
in their own way. And as I mentioned, like, he did a musical 2021,
mm-hmm.
and he did a biopic on his life growing up. Not a straightforward biopic, he dramatized a lot of it, but
mm-hmm.
it's heavily inspired. Paul Dano himself, like, I'm playing Steven Spielberg father, you know? So all in all, we watched The Fabelmans. We heard it was good. The trailers were nice. It's nice to see a kid discover a passion in filmmaking and picture making, set in that time period from the 50s to the 70s. Well, not really the 70s, but the 60s to the 70s, whatever time period it was. Knowing that this is heavily inspired, loosely based on Spielberg, discovering film, it was very entertaining, it was very enjoyable. And a key thing for me is that was not the best part of the movie. The best part was the family dynamics with his parents, with his sisters, and his uncle, lovely played by Seth Rogen.
Yeah, so it's a movie that follows him from childhood when he goes to see his first movie to kind of really ends when he's off to college. So it spans a long time in his life, and I think it's a movie that, I don't know about you, but I felt like it couldn't really be told until he has the perspective on it that he does. You know, when he's getting towards the end of his career, that he can really look back and tackle it in a way, because, like, you know, this obviously is a spoiler podcast, so
it's been out since November 22. Come on.
Yeah, so we highly advise you to go see this movie, but it does tackle, like you said, the family dynamics, but it's still it tackles a real difficult subject matter, which is kind of seeing the family dynamic break apart, and how does he navigate that, and to see his parents kind of not so much fall out of love, but realize that for one way or another they're not best suited for each other. And he kind of comes to discover that through his filmmaking, that he might see something through a camera that not everyone would see with their eyes, but he's able, because he has the camera running all the time, he's able to kind of see these moments and play them back again, and discover new things about them.
There is a rift between his passion and his family. I suppose it is an excellent scene between Judd Hirsch and himself, because Judd Hirsch is nominated for an Oscar for that one scene.
Mm-hmm.
But it highlights one's love of something that not everyone else is gonna get, especially for that time period. Now it's everyone is a filmmaker, with the, you know, the TikToks and the whatnot. But you see, I think us film students found a little bit of ourselves in Spielberg's Avatar, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I thought that, in agreement with yourself, this is the perfect time to showcase this movie to audiences, because we all know Spielberg, because we all know his filmography, even how he talks about film. Spielberg is second nature to everyone.
When you say director, you think Spielberg. Yeah. Do you know, it's...
he's probably going to be number one commonly anyway. You know, you can...
And if not, you're going to get to him pretty quick when you're thinking of directors.
Yeah. He's just magic. He's done it all. He's not the most financially successful director. Not all of his movies are full of mysteries and twists like some other directors can be highlighted of. He's just a great storyteller and genre tackler. Yeah. And you mentioned to me after watching the movie of how he likes to direct his actors.
Yeah, I saw a clip of him. I think it was for Film 4 that he said that when he's on set, he never comes to set with a shot list. He'll just arrive maybe an hour before or the morning of or even the night before and just walk around the set and just kind of get a feel for it and think, okay, this maybe shot from over there, maybe shot from over here. But he leaves a lot of the actual camera work up to his cinematographers and cameramen, but he focuses more on the actors, their performance and the way that they interact with one another. It's crazy that, you know, it's such a finely tuned machine to make a movie, but yet one of the most prolific directors says, oh yeah, don't really worry about the camera, which is how we're all viewing it, you know. And it's
those poor ADs,
those poor crew members never going in with a shot list, anything.
I even saw a little bit of myself when he went for the interview with John Ford, who was played by David Lynch, because you're nervous as fuck and you're sweating like hell and you're thinking, well, I'm thinking, what am I doing here? I'm no good at this. I'm not worthy of this. And I love the few things he has him do, such as look at the paintings and pictures and look what's in the picture, look at the horizon, and if the horizon is in the middle, it's boring as shit, and get the fuck out of my office. And like, why would you do this? It make pictures, it'll tear you apart. And I can actually agree, the stress level is fucking through the roof, and I'm just talking from Ireland perspective. So yeah, I can totally agree. I would like to still be in the film industry, not in the stress department or the heavy pressure department.
But that scene, like you're saying there, it was good to see, like, you know, someone that we would look up to, that if we were in his situation and going into his office, that he was like that with someone else. You know, it's a cycle. That
even the gentleman before that, in his, I think he was a production manager. He somewhat of an office guy. The fact, I remember when I was starting out, it was like, you know, maybe if this works out, we get you next shot. That barely scratches the surface of what working in film and TV looks like. You work based on how good you do on your last job. What have you done for me recently? Type of attitude, and you'll be kept. I hate that saying. When you'll be kept. Like if you do a good job, it's like fuck. Even though you know you'll get another job, you'll be asked to come into work. You'll be asked to be hired again. There's still that thought, oh, where am I going to go next? But it's a freelance industry, essentially. Unless you're on contract for a certain duration, great, you got a bit of work. I'm talking beyond the movie here, in terms of what picture making looks like in the real world. Whereas I like what Spielberg has his so-called avatar do in this movie and discover his love, learning it himself and experiment with it. And that's what we should all do if we aspire to be somewhat filmmakers. And our friends do the same. We all love to chat about it, so we do identify a lot of that in ourselves. And to note, I like that he got David Lynch to play John Ford, because David Lynch comes from a background of, in regards to his films, as surreal. His movies emphasize surrealism to a obvious display, to an uncomfortable display.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he has that theme surrounded by this real life man, David Lynch, he has him step into his biography to play John Ford.
Mm-hmm.
It's that whole aspect. I think that's why he brought him into, because think about it, David Lynch, he's a director, he's not an actor. Is he an actor? As far as I know, he's not. But he has him come in and like, how great would it have been? I would have loved to see Steven Spielberg direct David Lynch.
Yeah.
Like, what would that would have been like? Would David Lynch, would he be like, yeah, okay, or would he be?
That's not how I would have done it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy. But I like how he, like, for example, why you have me puff the cigar like 10 times waiting for it, you know, like that. Would he have done the same? Like, I want to see the behind the scenes of that scene specifically, but more than anything else. But yeah, other than that, like I said, the family dynamic really hit home for me, and I thought Paul Dano was great. I thought he was worthy of an Oscar nom. He did not get. Michelle Williams was great, and Seth Rogen was really good. And I mean, look, it's not top 10 for me in terms of movie of the year, 22 or 23, I'm sure. But look, Jaws is my favourite Spielberg movie, The Last Crusade aside. But this does rank in the higher top 10 Spielberg movies, I think. Out of his recent movies, I think I enjoyed it more than West Side Story. I enjoyed it more than The Post. I enjoyed it more than Ready Player One. I'm not going to go all the way too far back to like Lincoln, because...
Well, that's the thing, is that every other Steven Spielberg movie we've had it for years.
Yeah.
But this one we've had for 2 weeks, since we've seen it. We saw it last week, so we've had it for a week. So it's hard to place it, I suppose, in his entire filmography. So the longer we sit with it, I think that it will... I think that it's obviously not, but that would have been a good career ender.
Wouldn't it?
Do you know, if you're making your last film be about your journey through the film industry, or your beginnings, you end with your beginnings, I think that would have been a great cap off, do you know? Especially
with the final shot, where he purposely shifts the camera a little bit higher, horizon.
Yeah. They mentioned in the scene previously how the horizon at the top of the shot, the horizon at the bottom of the shot, it's great. Horizon in the middle, it's shit. And then they end, the last shot is him walking through the studio lot, and where's the horizon? Right in the middle. And then they adjust the shot, like shaky camera, like obviously like, someone forgot, remember that lesson.
It's like you can feel someone loosen the handle of the of the sticks, and they
Yeah. And there's little bits like that, like peppered through the movie, I think, as well, which were good. Like there was the scene with the bully at prom.
Oh my god!
Where he says, "Yeah, that's the thing. This movie encapsulates such a long period of time. It's hard to talk about everything in the short amount of time we have." But there was the one line specifically with the bully who's crying. He's watched a film that
makes him look like a hero.
Makes him look like a hero.
He was a dick to him, but not the worst dick.
Mm-hmm. But he says, don't tell anyone about this. And Steven Spielberg's character, what's his name, Greg Fabelman, or I can't remember his exact name, but he says,
unless we make a movie of it.
Oh, Sammy. It was Sammy, yeah. Sorry. So, he says, I won't tell anyone about this, unless I make a movie about this. And you're just like, there was one guy in the theater with us that like audibly laughed out loud.
And it took me a minute to,
Yeah. You kind of forget that, this, Sammy is the surrogate for Steven. So, there was those little moments peppered through. I would have preferred, I think, maybe a few more of those little... for audiences that know, like, this one's for you, but still.
I didn't mind it. I thought I was happy with the level of storytelling and Easter egg hiding. It worked perfectly for me. If there's anything I didn't like, and it's not that I didn't like it, I was fine with it, but sure, what's a bit of drama? Maybe it was too long, or I would have liked a bit more of the family dynamic. You know, I can talk about it all day, but it was all very good. I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I even liked that little bit where he was a child. He's filming themselves in the family in the car, moving to where was it, California. He starts off with his sister, moves into the middle child, and then you can see the parents in the background driving, and then you turn over to the far side and you see, oh, so they brought Seth Rogen with them.
Uncle Benny's with them. So yeah, you're right. You can definitely see his progression as a filmmaker throughout the film, and it's a hard, as I said, it's hard to cover everything that happened, like, because there's the whole move, and there's so much that's going on in the movie. It's I highly recommend it. You know, it's a Steven Spielberg movie. Go see it.
It's a very fine Spielberg movie.
Yeah, I'd say if I did have one criticism though, it would have been the actual bullies in the school. It was kind of they were kind of played a little bit hammy. Like a little bit exaggerated, like, oh, give me your lunch money, do you know? Like, it was a little bit, but then again, that's...
But I like that you brought that up, because I do agree with you. However, in the 60s...
Maybe that's what bullies were like.
Yeah, in the 1960s America, were bullies like that. Bullies weren't like that here with us in the noughties and the early teens in Ireland. And they still had the other bully who was more of a savage, the brutal one, always taken into the shit, and like, you know, he doesn't get the redemption. He gets, you know, the defeat at the end, the humiliation, whereas the other bully, the more bigger one, the one who would be more likely to become friends with him, who Spielberg does be at the end. And it was all very good. I also did like that he still shoots on film and he still makes the atmosphere feel like it was shot in the time period. Late 50s, early definitely. 60s, mid 60s. It felt consistent, even in terms of how the characters look. Their faces, like, you have a face that looks like you were born 60 years ago.
Yeah, definitely. You're right there. He can create a world, and just the way that he populates it is, you fully believe I am there, you know, no matter what.
Even the acting of the characters' faces, beyond how their hair look.
I think that's it. I think we can wrap it there.
I think we can wrap it there.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Talking Pictures podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Talking Pictures Pod. It mean a lot if you could give this 5 stars. If you could leave a little review, we'd really appreciate it. It helps us out. It costs you nothing, and it helps us out. So leave a small comment or a review, 5 stars if you can. We'd really appreciate it.
We'll take 6 if you can.
If you find out a way to put 6 or 7 stars on it, throw as many stars as you can at us. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, David.